The thing you learn first on the force is how to build a wall. You build it brick by brick with every bad call, every screaming match you have to break up. Every time you see something that makes your stomach turn, you have to, if you let it. All in, it'll drown you. My wall was pretty high. 20 years on the job does that to you. My partner, Mike, his wall was made of different stuff. He used jokes as his bricks. Bad puns, terrible dad jokes. A goofy grin that could disarm a tense situation better than any tactical maneuver. We'd be heading to a domestic, sirens wailing, and he'd turn to me and say, "Dave, you ever wonder if spiders think we're the ones living in their ceilings?" It was stupid, it was ridiculous, and it worked. It kept the darkness from seeping through the cracks. That morning started like any other. The air in the precinct was thick with the smell of stale coffee and paperwork. Mike clapped me on the shoulder, holding out a donut. "Jelly-filled," he said, his eyes twinkling. "The holiest of all the donuts," I grunted, taking a bite. "You're a menace, Mike. I'm a delight," he corrected, taking a huge bite of his own and getting powdered sugar all over his uniform. A powdered, delightful menace. We spent the first few hours of our shift doing the usual. A fender bender, a complaint about a barking dog, the routine patrol through neighborhoods that were just waking up. It was a crisp autumn day, the kind where the sun feels warm on your face, but the air has a little bite to it. Leaves, all red and gold, skittered across the pavement like tiny, colorful creatures. Around 11 a.m., the call came in. It wasn't a code 3, no sirens blazing emergency. It was a quiet call. A possible B&E in progress at an abandoned warehouse down by the old railway tracks. The dispatcher said a neighbor heard glass break, saw a flicker of a flashlight. Probably just some kids messing around, or maybe some copper thieves. Standard stuff. "Let's go see what's what," Mike said, finishing his coffee. "Maybe we can scare 'em straight with one of my jokes." "Please don't," I said, but I was smiling. That's cruel and unusual punishment. The warehouse was a big, ugly brick building with boarded-up windows and graffiti crawling up its sides. Like poison ivy, it had that smell of decay and dampness that old, forgotten places have. We parked a block away and approached on foot. The broken window was on the side, a jagged black mouth in the brick. "I'll take the back." "You take the front entrance," Mike whispered, his hand on his weapon. The jokes were gone. This was business. Radio check-in to. "Got it," I whispered back. "Be safe." He gave me a quick nod, that familiar, confident grin, and then he was gone. Melting into the shadows along the side of the building, I circled to the front. The main doors were chained shut, but a smaller side door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly. The inside was a cavern of darkness and dust motes dancing in the thin shafts of light. I moved in, my senses on high alert, every creak of the floorboards echoing like a gunshot in the silence. "Mike, status?" I whispered into my radio. Silence. "Mike, you copy?" More silence. A cold knot started to form in my gut. This was wrong, Mike always answered. "Always, Mike," I said, my voice a little louder, a little more desperate. That's when I heard it. Not from the radio. From deep inside the warehouse. A muffled shout, a crash, and then the one sound that every cop dreads more than anything in the world. Gunshots, 2 of them, fast. Pop-pop. My blood ran cold. The wall I'd spent 20 years building crumbled into dust. All I could think was Mike. I started running, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. "Shots fired. Officer needs assistance," I yelled into my radio, not even waiting for a reply. I didn't care about procedure. I just needed to get to my partner. I followed the sound deeper into the labyrinth of old machinery and stacked crates. I rounded a corner and saw him, the suspect, a skinny guy in a hoodie, scrambling out a back loading bay. I raised my weapon, shouted for him to stop, but he was gone. I didn't chase him. I couldn't, because just a few feet away, lying on the grimy concrete floor, was Mike. He was on his side, his hand still clutching his service weapon. There was blood, a lot of it, a dark, spreading stain on his chest. His eyes were open, but they weren't seeing me. They were looking at something far away. "Mike, oh God, Mike." I dropped to my knees beside him, My training kicked in. I fumbled to check for a pulse, to apply pressure to the wound. But my hands were shaking so badly I could barely function. "Hang on, buddy," I choked out, tears blurring my vision. "Hang on, help is on the way." He tried to say something. His lips moved, but only a soft, wet gurgle came out. His eyes started to lose their focus. I knew, in that gut-wrenching, soul-destroying way you just know, I knew I was losing him. He was dying, right there on the cold, dirty floor of a forgotten building. And there was nothing I could do to the next few minutes, or maybe it was hours, are a blur of noise and chaos, sirens screaming, tires screeching, the shouts of other officers. They had to pull me off him. I remember fighting them, screaming his name. I remember the captain, a tough-as-nails veteran named O'Malley, putting a hand on my shoulder, his own face pale and grim. The official report would say that Officer Mike Jennings died at the scene. It would list the cause of death and the time. It would be cold and factual. But that isn't the whole story. The story, the real story, the one that broke all of us, came to light a little later. It turned out Mike hadn't gone in the back door. He'd seen the suspect bolt from the side window and had given chase into the overgrown field behind the warehouse. That's where he was shot. He'd managed to drag himself, wounded and bleeding, into the warehouse for cover, collapsing just inside the loading bay where I found him. He hadn't died instantly. He had been there for a few minutes, alone, or so we thought. The day after, O'Malley called me into his office. My eyes were raw. My soul felt like a hollowed-out cavern. I hadn't slept. I just kept seeing Mike's face. "Dave, sit down," O'Malley said. His voice was gentle, which was unsettling. O'Malley was never gentle. He told me that a forensics team had been canvassing the area behind the warehouse. They'd spoken to the residents of the small row of houses that backed onto the field. They talked to a woman who said her two little girls, Lily and Maya, had been playing in their backyard with their dog, a scruffy terrier mix named Buster. The girls, ages 7 and 9, told their mom that Buster had suddenly started barking and ran off, squeezing through a hole in the fence. They'd chased after him, calling his name. They were scared they'd get in trouble for leaving the yard, but they loved that dog more than anything. Buster led them into the tall, weedy grass at the edge of the warehouse property, and that's where they found him. Not me, them. They found Mike. He was lying on his back in the weeds, trying to crawl. He was bleeding. The little girls, Lily and Maya, weren't scared of the blood. They just saw a man who was hurt, according to what they told their mother, and later, a child psychologist. They ran to his side. Mike looked at them, and he was crying, not from the pain, the girls said, but because he looked sad. Lily, the 9-year-old, took his hand. "It was cold," she said. She squeezed it and told him, "It's okay, mister. You'll be okay. My mom says everything will be okay." Mike tried to smile, but he couldn't. He whispered something. It was so quiet they could barely hear it. He whispered the name Sarah, his wife's name, while Lily held his hand. Her little sister, Maya, did the only thing she could think of to make a grown-up feel better. She started to sing. She sang "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," her soft, wavering little voice singing that simple nursery rhyme in a field filled with nothing but pain and fear. Buster, their little dog, lay down next to Mike's other side and started licking his free hand, whining softly, as if he understood. They stayed with him, a 9-year-old girl holding his hand, telling him lies about how everything would be fine, a 7-year-old girl singing him a lullaby, a little dog trying to warm him up. They were with him when he took his last breath. They didn't know that's what it was. They just said he got very, very quiet, and his eyes closed. They stayed for another minute, Lily still holding his hand, before they got scared by the sound of sirens getting closer and ran home. When O'Malley finished telling me this, the room was silent. The only sound was a ragged breath I didn't realize was my own. The wall I had tried to rebuild just fell away completely, and I started to sob. Not quiet, dignified tears. I was crying like a child, my whole body shaking with it. I wasn't just crying for Mike anymore. I was crying for the impossible, heartbreaking beauty of what those little girls did. O'Malley didn't say a word. He just pushed a box of tissues across the desk and let me cry. The story spread through the precinct like a slow-burning fire. At the next morning's briefing, O'Malley stood before the entire shift. Hardened detectives, young rookies, tough-as-nails sergeants who had seen it all. He cleared his throat and told them the story of Lily, Maya, and Buster. He told them that our brother, Mike, hadn't died alone on a cold floor. He had died in a field, holding the hand of a little girl who was telling him he would be okay, while her sister sang him to sleep. You could have heard a pin drop. Then I saw it. The big, burly desk sergeant, a guy we called the Bear, wiped a tear from his eye, then another officer, and another, soon. The entire room was filled with cops, big, strong men and women who faced down danger every single day without flinching. And they were all weeping, not for the tragedy, but for the grace. They weren't tears of just sadness. They were tears of gratitude, tears of awe. In the middle of the ugliest moment of our lives, two little kids and their dog had shown up and brought nothing but pure, innocent love. They didn't run away from the scary thing. They ran towards it and offered comfort. They gave our friend, our brother, a gift that none of us could have, a peaceful, gentle passing. They made sure the last thing he experienced on this earth wasn't fear or violence, but the touch of a small hand and the sound of a child's song. A few days later, after the funeral, a fund was started, not for Mike's family, the department, and the union were taking care of them. This was for the girls. Every single officer, from the captain down to the newest cadet, contributed. We raised enough for their college education, and then some. I went with Captain O'Malley to deliver the news to their family. Their house was small and neat, with drawings taped to the fridge. The girls were shy at first. They sat on the couch, clutching pillows, their eyes wide. Their dog, Buster, came and sat at my feet, nudging my hand. I knelt down in front of them. My voice was thick, and I struggled to get the words out. My name is Dave, I said softly. I was Mike's partner, his best friend. Lily's eyes filled with tears. The man in the field? I nodded, my own eyes burning. Yeah, the man in the field. I took a deep breath. I came here to thank you. What you did, it was the bravest thing I've ever seen. You gave my friend a great gift. Maya, the little one, looked at me. Singing helps when you're sad, she said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. And right there, in that small living room, I understood. We put on uniforms, carry weapons, build walls to protect ourselves. We think strength is about being hard, about not showing emotion. But true strength, the kind that can actually heal a wound, is so much simpler than that. It's holding a hand, it's singing a song, it's seeing someone who is hurting and choosing to be kind. Mike's locker at the precinct is still there. His name is still on it. Inside, his family left a picture of him with his wife and kids. But for me, and for everyone else on the force, Mike's real memorial isn't that metal locker. It's the story of two little girls and their dog, who found a dying cop and, with nothing but their gentle hearts, brought an entire police force to its knees, reminding us that even in the deepest darkness, there can be a small, twinkling light.